Welcome back. We are here. Wait, what are we doing?
This is the Super Intelligent Podcast.
This is a super intelligent podcast.
It's going to be a long podcast, folks.
Like, whoo, okay. I thought I had it on the tip of my tongue, and then I got there, and I was like, oh yeah, it's not there. It's not there.
This is Face the Nation with Brian Campbell.
Yeah, like, what is this? All right. Welcome back. This is the Super Intelligent Podcast with me, Emily Forlini, and Mike Elgin. And I am so excited about today's episode because we have a very esteemed guest who's going to talk to us about AI and education. So, Mike, who is this illustrious person who's joining us?
This illustrious person is my super intelligent son, Kevin Elgin. He has been our producer all along. He was present at the conception of this podcast. Helped us get off the ground, but he's been behind the scenes, and we tried to keep him behind the scenes. And finally, we fail to keep him behind the scenes because we're talking about AI and education today. And nobody knows more about this than Kevin because he's had his whole career doing technology and education, and currently works for Kagi, has his own AI-focused educational product that he launched a few years ago called Chatterbox, as everyone knows. And so, Kevin, welcome to the spotlight of the Super Intelligent Podcast.
It's so amazing to come out from behind the curtain and be on the floor with you two. So this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Very happy.
We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. So let me just start the conversation by saying that I've noticed a frustrating disconnect in the public discord on AI and education. So essentially, as I understand it, schools, in terms of their policy, in terms of what they're actually offering students, are behind the times. Kids are bringing their own ChatGPT to school, cheating on tests, doing whatever, all these things that nobody likes. And to the extent that some schools have embraced AI, there's been some backlash, the biggest of which, of course, is in Manhattan. There were plans to launch an AI-focused high school called the Next Generation Technology High School, kind of a Star Trek reference, I assume. And they canceled it because all the parents were pushing back. So that's one point that indicates a backlash. Now you talk to, Kevin, you talk to teachers and educators all the time. What is the consensus or the mindset around AI in technology among teachers?
So I would actually break this down to kind of two phases. One is technology and how that relates to school education, which is one part, and then the second part is what you just asked. What is the consensus? Well, I'll start with the consensus. The consensus is creating a lot of problems, and just leave it at that. There's some good. There's some bad. Just like any topic, any subject that schools have to deal with, there's some good and bad. Just like anything we deal with, there's some good and bad. But to go back, just to kind of reframe this a little bit, I would actually, it would be helpful to kind of go back to around 2010, 2011. Where I think 2011 is when the iPad came out or around there. And there's a big announcement. LA Unified was going to replace all textbooks with iPads. All instruction was going to be on iPads, and it was going to be amazing. And that just kind of fell apart. And then there was a lawsuit by LA Unified and
LA Unified being the huge district in LA.
Los Angeles Unified School District, exactly. Yep. Biggest school district in the state of California. And there are a lot of things there, but the promise was lots of things. It's, kids don't, really good things. Kids don't have to lug, so many books, to and from school. It's going to remove friction from learning. Friction is kind of that idea that we'll come to again. And it was going to make things easier for teachers because then they can just, with a click of a button, assign, homework and textbook and reading. And that was a promise. And then
sounds familiar. I see what we're doing here.
And then Google had its own answer as well, right? Which was Chromebooks. And this was going to be this amazing thing where everything's going to be connected. You'll know exactly what kids are doing. Teachers will have complete insight. We'll create these amazing automated systems that remove all the friction, again, from work, from teaching. So you can focus on your students. And so that just was this other thing. And then on top of that was, okay, not just Chromebooks and not just the IT management solutions for districts, but also here's this learning management system for teachers. And so here's yet another system that lives on top of that platform that you already have to learn, and you have to learn how to use that to assign assignments. And then we haven't even gotten to grading. Well, okay, well, what are we going to do for grading? Well, we're going to give all of our assessments and testing in these in computers. And, teachers, so there's just these layers of systems that teachers have to learn how to use. And what that meant through the 2010s was that they were just overloaded. And if you talk to any teacher today, they're going to say, oh my God, there's so much stuff that everything is always changing. And that chaos just makes the job of teaching much harder. When really what they should be doing is just focusing on kids.
And so you're saying that teachers felt overwhelmed by all the changes and all the technology and all the learning that they had to do. And in my experience, and I know you've mentioned in your experience, many teachers don't feel comfortable at all with technology in general. They didn't get into education because they're technology nerds. They got into it because they want to teach textbook material, writing, reading, sort of the hands-on thing. And by the way, one other thing, I remember years ago, back when Google Plus existed, I did a hangout sort of interview with a bunch of teachers over this idea of iPads in schools. And they all said the same thing, which was that this is a disaster, because if the students are all taking iPads home in their backpacks, every 2-bit third-rate local hoodlum knows that if all you have to do is assault a child and you can get a free iPad. There just turns them into targets, whereas nobody wants a Chromebook. So, and
but just one other point to what gets us to today is that all of that technology in schools is just a layer of complexity on top of this, what should be the subject matter, which is what kids are learning. And so if you look at test scores, what happened to test scores? The turn was really at the beginning of the 2010s, where test scores start going down, even though they had been going up, over time. And so much of that, I believe, is because of technology, because there's all these layers. And now if you look at today, this is to automate the classroom, because, okay, test scores aren't there. So we have to automate the classroom, and it's focusing. It's a problem in search of a solution, because the solution is, we know what that solution is, which is just more time with students. But when the primary instruction is actually being done, like kids are learning to read on laptop screens, on Chromebook screens, kindergartners, pre-K, like it's really, as somebody who, like, I taught my daughter to read, I homeschool her and I teach her all the subjects. When she has to do something on a computer, it's just, she's not absorbing the information as much. And we all know that. We don't like reading books on laptop screens.
Right.
So it's something that I don't think is really looked at deep enough, or I haven't heard this, because again, schools just want data. They've been sold this story, which is actually a really good podcast, by the way, Sold the Story. It's about literacy instruction in schools. But
this is the best podcast.
Yeah, it's the second best podcast you can listen to about this subject.
But really, it's just that they've been sold this promise by tech companies that technology is going to make their lives better. And that's what technology was about. And somewhere along the lines, we lost the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so talking about AI, so I don't really have a good sense of how, and it's hard to characterize because I'm sure it's all over the map, but how schools are using AI now, not in terms of kids just, looking up answers on ChatGPT, but in terms of what the school itself is offering to students. Are they using AI-based products? Are they using just AI? Like what's happening right now in terms of AI in let's say K through 12?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different platforms that are being used. It's all very siloed. Some districts choose this, some districts choose that. But generally, what they say, and this is from a policy perspective, is that if they do allow AI, well, then it's up to teachers to kind of set here with this assignment, you can use a little bit of AI or a medium. It's like green, yellow, red, in terms of the amount of AI that you can use. And then they just leave it to students to kind of police themselves.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, but don't they also have Chromebooks, right? How ubiquitous are Chromebooks in schools now?
Oh, I think 70-80% of penetration into schools.
That's a lot. Yeah, so they would have Gemini on them pre-installed, and then Google launches new features, and then the Gemini thing pops up, and so that's going on as well.
So that shift just happened. Right?
Interesting.
It's for the longest time they had Google Workspace, or whatever they call it today, because they've rebranded that 1,000 times. But they would have Google Workspace, and students would have their logins and everything, but it wasn't there yet. Within I would probably say the last 2 or 3 weeks, probably turned it on. And now it's like schools
turned it on
are just
being like Gemini. They're pushing Gemini out now. Okay, exactly. So now Gemini is just available in 70 to 80% of schools.
Yeah. It's still probably like a IT decision, but it wasn't available prior. And so now I'm starting to hear the trickles, and people are telling me, oh, well, now it's like we have Gemini and this and that. But, the biggest complaint that I get right now from just talking to schools is really AI overviews. That these AI overviews, part of school, part of education is research, learning to research. It's information literacy. And they say that students are just going to Google, getting an answer, from that AI overviews. And this was just a recent anecdote that I received, but they said that the AI overviews uses information from paywalled sites. So that means that the overview has answers that students are using. And even if they were to try to, go to the actual source, students can't.
That's not good. That's not good at all.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Very bad.
I read this wonderful sort of expression of the problem of doing this kind of thing, which is that the way this person, I don't recall who it was who said it, but basically they said, when you write an essay in school, the purpose is not the essay. Nobody's going to read this essay. Nobody cares about the essay. The teacher doesn't even want to read the essay, but has to grade it. The whole purpose of the essay, the only reason that exists is for you to go through the work of figuring out how to gather the information, to express your thoughts, to organize the material, all that kind of stuff. That's the purpose of an essay. And to just go get answers means that if you're just getting answers from AI, it means that, drop out of school, because it's just that's you're there to struggle, to go through the struggle of learning. You're not there to produce content.
Right.
And so this is a catastrophe when students are doing this.
I kind of think about how can teachers evolve how they teach. And I have always been a fan of introducing more oral exams. I don't know why the US doesn't do that. But I also think that kids need to be trained to look at the output of an AI and say what they agree with and disagree with that output, because that's the thing, is it's evaluating, this is good, this is bad, this is the trend, this is how history went, this is a good essay, a bad essay. And it's like, well, do you agree with the AI? Do you think it's a good essay that it output? What do you think in that AI overview is most likely to be incorrect, and why? They're not looking at it with a trained critical eye and not just accepting it like we all are right now. That's the phase. We're just like, oh, it scraped the whole internet and knows the answer.
It's trivially easy, theoretically, to arrive at that place where kids are forced to do critical analysis. And I do it myself with everything I write now. I have, as you both know, I use Lex, which basically uses Claude Opus, the reasoning model of Claude Opus, as one of the options inside Lex. And you can just say, well, here's this article I wrote, and you can just you can throw things at it. So what I throw at it, I have 5 or 6 different prompts that I tweak a little bit once in a while, but a couple of them are brutal. Like one of them is like, okay, you're my intellectual sparring partner. I want you to intelligently and faithfully disagree with everything that I'm saying here, and explain to me why it's wrong and bad and isn't good. And this thing just ripped. And then what happens is that it attempts that on not only the things that need correction, but the things that don't. I mean, most things don't need correction. I'm making basic statements of fact, and it's arguing against them. And I have to critically say, well, the thing that they're saying is, I can dismiss that, and I go to the next one. And so it's like it's a one paragraph. I can do that as a non-expert, as a non-developer, as a non-AI, tool maker. Certainly, schools can do that. But Kevin, you think a lot about this, obviously. What is like clearly just getting answers from Google's AI overview is bad and wrong. What's it sort of? Give us an example of a future scenario where AI would be amazing for, let's say, high school students.
Okay. One.
Kevin's like, oof.
I want to respond to what you just said, actually first, because it's that type of thing that I hear a lot, and from, it's great for this, for me, and this is how I am using it. And we make the mistake of thinking, you two are journalists, right? Your job is to think. Your job is to write. Writing is thinking, and you think deep, and you think about the effect of something, not just what people say. You're trying to cut through the noise. Students don't do that, right? You do that over years of training, years of critical thinking, right? And so if and this is the mistake that I think companies are making, where they say, well, this is how I do things, and therefore it's going to be great for everybody. And that kind of works to a certain extent. It never works when it comes to kids, right? Because kids are at the beginning of that arc. And so they don't know how to do that. And that's what we're trying to teach them.
So how would you use AI to stimulate the sort of kind of make them think critically about the quality of content, let's say?
Right. And so I do think there is a time and place for that. High school would probably be that thing, but it's about using it in a way. And this is what the tech companies don't want. I believe, and I'm working on my own things here, as part of, Kagi education, but I believe that, you need to use AI and understand the weaknesses of it and understand how it's broken. It's like, it's a tool for a certain job. You wouldn't use a hammer, to fix a window, it's like you wouldn't use a screwdriver, for, cooking, right? It's like, you just wouldn't. So it's a different tool for a different job. Why do both those things
sound fun, though?
I know.
That sounds actually good.
I almost said you wouldn't use a hammer for cooking. I'm like, maybe you would, though.
Yeah.
I use a hammer to open
meat faster.
Coconuts. I love that. So fun. Take
with
it
a
out
hammer?
back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
but can I respond to your prompt thing too, Mike? I guess it was
Yeah.
thought-provoking to both of us. I'm kind of at the point where no matter what prompt you say, the AI is going to give you a different answer every time, and it's going to double back on itself. And it's going to say, oh, yeah, I don't know why I said that. And if you keep going and you keep pressing it, it'll just go in circles and circles and circles. And it's like this, it's just a snake.
Yeah.
You really can't trust its output. So I think
Well,
almost having faith in prompts is still giving it power that its
yeah.
output has inherent meaning no matter what, when
Yeah.
it even changes its answer every time. So
Right.
I'm just fully taking the power from it and just saying, you can output whatever you want, AI. I'm going to take it as a suggestion, and you really need to have like
Right.
a wall between you and the AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, all I'm doing is I'm not taking any of its words or output. What I'm doing is I'm fishing
Right.
for ideas about how to improve a column. And
Right.
80% of the things that it comes back with, I dismiss it. But that's my point. I have to consider it and then be like,
Mhm.
no, that's not valid. But oftentimes it does very, very good things. It'll say something like, well, you kind of fizzled out there at the end. You didn't really drive it home. You started out with this strong sort of premise, and in the end you kind of had this. I'm like, that's a great point. And then I just go in and I rewrite it with that in mind to sort of like have it be more consistent. So every once in a while it'll give me a good idea. With things like fact checking, it hallucinates lots of times.
Mhm.
There was another thing that I wrote about in Machine Society yesterday, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if you all saw the Anthropic report, which was called "Who's in Charge?" It was an Anthropic published paper, and basically they found some pretty shocking things. Like 1 in 1,300 conversations led to severe reality distortion. Now, we're not talking about hallucinations in the response. We're talking about hallucinations in the user's mind. Reality distortion. That there was 1 in 6,000 conversations led to action distortions. The responsive chatbots they found in actual use of Anthropic. People were doing things that they wouldn't otherwise do because of the AI. And then mild disempowerment, 1 in 50 conversations, mild disempowerment being, when there's an erosion of the user's independent agency and a sense of self, sort of the psychological reliance on AI. So I broke this down and did a little math. And what's interesting about this is that those are not 1 in 1,300 users. Those are 1 in 1,300 conversations. So if an active user has 10 conversations a day, just as a thought experiment, they're going to experience severe reality distorting episode 2 or 3 times a year. Everybody, on average, in general. They're going to experience action distortion. The chatbot will get them to do something they otherwise wouldn't do. At least 1.6 times, or no, I'm sorry, 0.6 times a year. So like in 2 years, at least once. And then mild disempowerment 73 times a year. Again, every user on average in general. And so this is not good for education. You don't want a product that's causing what they call reality distortions as part of the curriculum or part of the educational experience. And so,
which is why,
go ahead.
But which is why I think it's important to understand that it's not a tool for every job.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Right. And so, it's like, I don't know if you came up with this, or I came up with this, but, it's like a moving walkway, right? The people who are curious, the people who want to improve.
That was mine. I came up with that. I want full credit. It's my one good idea.
It's like a moving walkway. So for the curious,
like a moving sidewalk at the airport.
At SFO that I'm going to be on tomorrow, and tomorrow at 4:00 in the morning, I might just stop and let it move for me. But generally speaking, I get on it and I keep on walking. It's that. But when it comes to education, we can look at like the ideal use case, or we can look at what is going to happen across the student body. And most people get on that moving walkway and they stop.
Yeah.
And therefore, if they get on that walkway and then they stop, and yes, it can be used to do really good stuff. It can be used to challenge your thinking. It can be used to get to where you want to go faster. The vast majority of people will stop.
Yeah,
and that
the metaphor
and
there is that you can use AI to arrive at the same place with less effort, or you can use AI to arrive in a totally different place you wouldn't be able to arrive at without AI. So that's the metaphor with the moving sidewalk. And most people choose is, just write my email. It's just easier.
But it's
right,
a
like don't go beyond.
Yeah.
But it's a double-layered problem for education, because it's being pushed on, or students are using it, or it's being pushed on students because here's how you can improve your test scores. But it's also being pushed on teachers because they have so much work now because of all the trainings and all the systems. So here, you don't have to plan your lessons anymore. Use AI for lesson planning. Use it to create those lessons. And so we're kind of getting back into this kind of, the promise of AI is going to do your email, right? Where you get an email that was probably written by AI, and now you have your AI agent that's going to read the email, draft a response. You just have to approve. And so what's actually happening? And so what's happening is AI is just going to get in the middle of, that relationship between a teacher and a student, which is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think possibly dumb them both down.
Yeah. And what you just said, Mike, is interesting, how it gets you to do something you wouldn't otherwise do. And I think in an everyday version of that, it's what you said with your column. You revised the ending because it got in your head. It's kind of hard to unhear some things that an AI says. It's like, every time you read your ending, you're wondering, if I publish this, is everyone going to think the ending's bad? Am I going to listen to the AI or not? And with the lesson plan too, maybe they change their lesson plan based on what the AI says. And maybe if their lesson plans are terrible, that's good. But maybe if they're observing something in their students, they see it every single day and they know that their lesson plan is solid and the AI does not see that, but they decide to go with the AI because they get nervous instead of what they see, then that's a problem.
Yeah,
they're second guessing themselves.
Yeah, it makes you second guess yourself. You're like, oh wow, this all powerful being tells me that at the end, my lesson plan, doesn't really tie together, and the kids aren't going to learn at the end of it. They're not going to be, competitive with other kids. They're not going to get the concepts. Oh, I have to change it. But maybe it was fine. Maybe it was better.
Yeah. There's also the ordinary problems of AI sycophancy, and also just the sort of making everything generic. It really is. It's clear that AI is not a good substitute for a good teacher, for human judgment. It's probably a good substitute for a bad teacher, I'm guessing.
Like a terrible teacher. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you need a teacher who uses it and will just reject things that, parts of it left and right. Let's say you have an AI tool that will take, a textbook and scan the textbook or whatever. It's an electronic textbook you feed in, and it will spit out a test. And you want a teacher who will go like, okay, well, answer number 3 is bullshit. Answer number 5 is, I'm going to rewrite that. And then that's a good test. To be able to, they have to have critical thinking skills as well. Like, and the other part of this that is, you hear the phrase critical thinking skills a lot nowadays, because this is the whole crisis in our politics. People don't know how to evaluate information. It's the whole crisis in the disinformation problem on social media. It's the whole crisis in how people choose to spend their content consumption because they're not thinking critically. And this is precisely the first thing to go. And when people rely on AI chatbots for information, they just, the AI is smarter than me, so I'll just let it think for me, so I don't have to. And we need the opposite. If we're going to be dealing with AI, we teachers and they need to teach the students to have those critical critical thinking skills.
That's why I'm saying they should be evaluating the output. Like, is this a good output or not? And there should be real effort put into how do you process what you receive on a chatbot, because it's powerful.
Yeah. So I got another question. Go ahead and answer that question, and then I have another question for you.
So, but evaluating the output, like I agree, that's a really good exercise. but it requires a certain amount of knowledge. So and that's the hard part. Like where in the educational, from pre-K to university, right? That like you can definitely do it at university, and you should be doing that. I think that would be a good exercise. Probably high school would be okay. It's that beginning part is a lot harder, but there's also just finite time. And so I personally would much rather them be discussing, and evaluating literature over the output of AI. And I think that's more important.
Well, here's an example. When I was coming up, when I was in elementary school, Wikipedia came out, and there was a lot of hubbub about, can you cite Wikipedia or not? Because it's not a true encyclopedia. It's not a real source. It's not an expert. Like, what is this Wikipedia thing? Anybody can write anything they want on Wikipedia. So we had lessons about how you can use Wikipedia. Is it trustworthy or not? And they taught us from the start, don't trust this thing 100%.
That's exactly it. Right. Yeah. But the tech companies are going to tell you, yes, they want AI to be the all-knowing,
right.
thing.
And by the way, it's pulling from Wikipedia. It's pulling from Wikipedia. Like how far we have fallen.
Oh, we've fallen far to that. We just wait. Grok is pulling from Grokopedia.
Yeah, well, all of them are pulling from Reddit. I mean, if that's the skepticism over Wikipedia back then, now we have something that's pulling from social media and Wikipedia, and that's what it's serving up. And we're like,
pulling
let's
from
push
Reddit
it out.
and social media, and half of that is generated by AI. So
yeah, it's just like the AI. It's just a big, what do we say? AI sausage. We've said that before.
Something like that. Yeah, you don't want to see it being made. So, Kevin, I have a question for you. So, we've been kind of alluding to the use of AI as an educational tool, but what about the thing you specialized in with Chatterbox, which is teaching about AI itself, like giving students a sense of what AI is, how it works, this whole thing about whether you can trust it or not. Is that happening in schools? Is anybody teaching what you call AI literacy?
Yes, they are. There's efforts around it. The thing is, everything is just moving so fast. I use AI heavily. I build product with AI. I use it for coding. Like I don't write code anymore, pretty much. And just to be clear, I don't call that vibe coding. Vibe coding is a very bad name for what the people who kind of understand kind of the strengths and weaknesses of these systems. But they try to. The thing is, it's just moving so fast, and that if I have a hard time keeping up with it and of the changes, and if there was a shift, the shift was in December of last year, where it just got like big step changes better. That it's just they're really lost. That's really what it is. And so the idea of AI literacy is let them use it and restrict themselves and monitor themselves and kind of understand. They can experiment with it here, they can't over there. I do agree with you, Emily, like that the way we teach and the way we test needs to be different. Right. Yep. I do love the idea of like oral exams, but really, I think debate. I think debate is great.
Debate,
right? There's
exams,
nothing better.
Handwriting essays. I mean, there's things we can do here.
Yeah, blue books, right? Blue books can save society, right? It's at the end of the day, that's what we need to go back to. And I can tell you that things are trending in the opposite direction, which is we need to automate testing. So every single student is a number. And I just went through that. My daughter's in third grade. She had to do STAR testing, I think, the California state exam. And it's all on a Chromebook. And wow. This is third grade, the first standardized test, and they assume that, she needs to know how to type. And she needs to know how to use a mouse, or she needs to know how to use a trackpad. And if you look at, third graders in particular, their fine-tuned motor skills are still like really developing. So all of that is really hard for them. And so, in my opinion, she was tested on how well she knows how to use a computer. and
Mm-hmm.
we don't use computers in what we do. She actually has a typewriter to learn how to type, like a manual typewriter.
Wow.
And
That's kind of hard though, manual
it
typewriter.
is, it is hard, but it's fun. It's
Yeah,
tactile.
it's
And
fun.
again, this leads me to the other part. What is education? What is the point of education in the age of AI? And I don't think it's like vocational training or to learn this or to learn that. I think it's to it's that the thing that can't be changed is the inspiration, the goal of education prior is to create lifelong learners, right? People who are curious about the world, who, if they're curious, are going to chase that down. And the only way that happens is through like interpersonal, relationships with teachers. I remember my ninth grade teacher, she was my Spanish teacher. She got on the desk and started screaming, "Hey, asteo, amos, aron." And these are the endings for, the past tense in Spanish. And so like, I remember that to this day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily the Spanish that I remember, but it's her doing that, which then leads me to this happy memory, which then is linked to whatever I was learning around that. And I think that's the most important part in education.
It's funny I'm thinking of a specific memory of a teacher too while we're talking about this that I don't think AI could produce. So AP Environmental Science, it's a class I took. Who else took that? Anybody? So my teacher.
We didn't have the environment when I was in high school.
So one thing I don't think AI could do is he would have us go out to local streams and woods and test things outside, like look at the microbiome in the, riparian system. It was this little
That's fantastic.
dinky little stream nearby. Or we would go on hikes and we would look at leaves and we really would get to know our local environment. And I have found that AI actually is really bad at that extremely micro information, like community level information. And that's the level students are operating on. That they live in that community, they're going to that district, and the AI can't meet it. And so I'm just thinking if he hadn't brought us out there, they taught us how to siphon, and we would go do environmental challenges where we had to identify soil and wood and all this stuff. And it's like if he didn't think that I'm going to do that in my lesson plan, then we never would have done it. And I'm just thinking, I just don't know if AI is going to make that more or less likely, that kind of thing.
Well, just to go full circle on this, I think what you're both saying is something that is very true, and it's something I've been kind of obsessing about lately, which is that the AI advocates basically want robots and chatbots to be like people. They want them to, they want to believe that they have thoughts and feelings and all that kind of stuff, which is a bunch of BS. And so, as I've said before in this podcast, I think I've certainly written it. It's not so much that people with that mindset think that AI is human. They think that humans are AI. And what you're saying and what I believe is that humans are not computers. That's the metaphor we use now. Back when we were building machines in the Industrial Revolution, we thought the universe and humanity were just it was clockwork. And when we thought it was, before that, we thought everything was based on humors and all this stuff. It's the leading metaphor for how we think of the brain as a binary computer. That is not what it does. The human brain does not process information, right? What we do is we are biological organisms. We live in a body. So for you to go out in the environment and test things, why did that make the things you were doing so unforgettable? Why did Kevin's crazy Spanish teacher jumping on the desk and screaming at the students make that so unforgettable? Because we're physical. We live in a 3D physical space. Right. And we're subject to physics, and this is part of our thought process. We have hormones, that's part of our thought process. We have hands and feet, and that's part of our thought process. And so to sit down computer to computer, which is the paradigm of AI learning as it's conceived too often right now, where one computer absorbs the information from the other computer, this is just delusional. That's not what we are. We're not binary computers.
No. But what does it take to get the AI to suggest, hey, Spanish teacher, it'd be really fun if you jumped on the desk and started screaming, or like, hey, it'd be really cool, environmental science teacher, if you took them to a local desert or, whatever environment you live in, what is it? This goes back to the source of the information, right?
Yes. Well, it goes back to, what are you optimizing for?
Right. What is the AI optimizing for? And
so
what does it think good teaching is?
So technology has been optimizing, again, I'll go back to 2010, but since then has been optimizing to remove friction, right? That's really what it is. And this is why I go back to friction so many times. And so by removing friction, you optimize for speed, right? We can help you do things faster. We can help you do this faster. And education, it just doesn't work for education, because education is about friction. Mm-hmm. Right, it's the friction that results in a change, in learning, in synthesizing, ideas or an understanding, and these companies are all optimizing for that. And that's what AI Overviews is. It's speed, and like they're optimizing for speed. You don't have to search. You don't have to look at all these links. We're just going to give you an answer. And that's what they want. That's what Google wants, especially because they're ad supported. So now where are they getting that information? So what I think it requires, which is something that really nobody wants to do, is to optimize in what's best for kids, prioritize students and the educational experience. And that is not speed. And that is not, Sal Khan from, Khan Academy and all the books and stuff. Oh, yeah. He talks about how, there's a Sigma study from the 80s about how, having a tutor will help you, and you can improve kind of your, student performance, by orders of magnitude just by having a tutor. That's the promise of AI. I don't think that that's great for learning certain things, but again, what is learning for? Are we just trying to shove as much, knowledge, into student brains? Or are we trying to create a well-rounded person who learns and can interact with other people? Mm-hmm. And so what I believe it would require is, imagine if you were to ask a AI, something, just any random question, and it actually says, you know what? I'm not sure. Let's take this down this journey and let's explore. Right? Just
say it doesn't know would be so refreshing.
Which would be amazing, right? But again, Google doesn't want to do that because they want
it's a product.
It's a product, right? And I think if you want to use AI in learning, great, right? But use it as part of the process, right. Not where you're just like asking a question, but it's leading. I personally think that, especially for, Chatterbox and that type of thing, the whole idea was kids use it, right? Like use technology to make your lives easier. Like, okay, well, I want to wake up for school listening to my favorite song, so. And I want to do that with voice, like use it to understand that this is just a tool, not this magic, this magic black box thing. It's just a tool. It makes mistakes. It doesn't know anything.
That's what I'm saying. Right. I think it's best when it's used for something like automating a routine task. So let's say you're working on a stats project and you have to, let's just assume like bulk delete doesn't exist in Excel or Google Sheets. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're going through and you're deleting every single cell of a spreadsheet you want to clean up. If you could just ask an AI can you just delete column C? I have personally no problem with that. I think that helps the student. They don't get anything by pressing down arrow delete for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Or when I used to get in trouble in school and I will not throw out the eraser at the other kids 100 times on the board. I could just do that, just like that.
Did you do that?
Probably.
then you wrote all work and no play makes Mike a dull boy.
Exactly. I had a wonderful teacher, I think in the 7th grade, named Mr. Hawthorne. And basically what he did was he was an old teacher. He was, he'd he'd been a teacher at this school, teaching the same class for a couple of decades, 3 decades, something like that. And he was really into that. He'd make you stay after class and write 100 times, whatever the thing was, if you were talking in class. It was always disciplinary, right? But he had this thing called the Yellow Book, and he only had one Yellow Book his entire career. So it was this big fat book with people who have to sign the book saying they did the 100 things, and it went back to like the 50s. But the genius of this method for instilling discipline in the class is he'd be talking, and some kids be in the back, probably me, right, creating disruptions or whatever. He would pull the Yellow Book out and just put it in a more prominent place on his desk without even slowing down what he was saying.
Nice.
And it was just silence the whole class.
Subtle threat.
Like everybody lived in fear with this. But again, it's physicality, right? It was a physical book. That was the thing that was meaningful to us primates in the class, right? So Kevin, I want to throw a couple of things at you and tell me if these are good general approaches for using AI as an educational tool. So I've found both in my life and in the use of AI that one of the sticking points is when you confront highly complex material that you just feel like is way over your head, and it's like, how do you get to the point where you understand it? And what I've done a couple of things. One is I've if something's super complicated and way outside my wheelhouse, I'll take a PDF, it's a scientific paper or something. I can throw it into Notebook LM or some other tool, and I'll say, explain the main point of this in 3 sentences, like I'm a freshman in high school, and then. Okay, now explain it to me. And I go up in rank. So I'll go and now explain it to me like I'm a senior in high school. Okay, now explain it to me and so basically it's a way because a really great teacher, if somebody, it's a cliche, but it's true. If somebody really knows their stuff, they can explain it in simple terms. And so a really great teacher will do that for highly complex information. So you enter in a chemistry class or something like that. You're like, oh my God, this stuff is really complicated. But if you have a great teacher, they start you out with an explanation that is very clear and simple. And that's a way for you. And then you can enter into the denser material with a sort of a categorical understanding.
Okay, but what level of freshman, what level of senior? Because students learn at very different rates. So you might get if you're a kid and you get an output that says, hey, chatbot, explain it to me at a freshman level, and you don't understand the output. You're like, oh, I'm an idiot. And now your self-esteem is going down. Or if it's too simple, you're not being challenged and, oh, I'm not operating. So it's like the variation, it's sanitizing again.
What I'm talking about is a dial where you can just say, I don't understand this. Turn it down, make it really simple, and then turn it back up. Okay, now turn it up some more. And you know what? I really want to know this. Turn it way up beyond my grade level, or something like that. Some way for you to work your way up, because AI can do that. That's like a kind of a good use for AI, I would think. But what do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, in education, that's called scaffolding, right? It's like you create like a simpler understanding and you kind of build that up. Wired has a really good, and I always go back to this, has a really good series on YouTube where it's like explain gravity in five different complexities for a kindergartner, then fifth grader, middle school, high school, then for like a astrophysicist, and they're explaining the same concept, but just like peeling back the layers of the onion, which I think is really interesting. I do think that is compelling, and I think that is a good thing. But going back to what Emily was asking prior, which was like, well, what does it take for AI? I think, when we talk about a really good teacher doesn't answer your question, right? A really good teacher answers your question with a question.
No.
Because they're trying to draw the understanding out, from you, right? Based on something that you can relate to. And so while, yes, I think that is a good way. It allows you to kind of understand, a bigger topic, more complex system. But what I would love is like, that's a starting point for those who, for those who are curious and are willing to like prompt that way. But I think, where we want to go is that other way, turn it around where it doesn't know everything, is not giving you answers. And I think, is more helping you come up with your own understanding. And then of course it's going to feed, but yes, I think it is helpful. Is it enough? Not quite, but it's a step in the right direction.
I said no because it was always so frustrating when teachers did that. You know, it's like, oh, just give me the answer. But surprisingly, I didn't know where we were going to go in this conversation, but some of the my favorite stuff that you're saying, Kevin, is just like, what is the point of education? What is the point of a good teacher? And just kind of bringing it down to that basic level. I don't always hear that in these conversations about AI. And it is cool that it can trigger this reevaluation of our priorities and what matters. But also, I don't really hear what you're saying in the conversations about AI and education. So I think maybe just like, what do we want for our kids? It's all over the place. You know, this Gemini and this tool and the teacher experience, the student experience, just taking it down to the base level might be a way to get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. The models don't matter in my view. It's just it's just a tool.
Yeah. Like, what is the point of education? You said to make lifelong learners, to illuminate, inspire kids, I guess to pass their standardized test scores. That's, a goal these days. I don't know. It make them critically think. What do you guys think?
So I think, so you mentioned standardized test scores, right? I think knowledge is the byproduct of just working on the person. I'm rewatching Ted Lasso, so I'm in like the first or second episode or something of the series, and he talks about, it's not about the wins and losses, right? It's just helping them be the best version of themselves, like in terms of his players. I think that's really what it is, and that is the job of a teacher. Like, teachers are there because they part of their goal is to see and understand what's going on in the home of this student, because that's going to impact the type of person that they are. Mm-hmm. And if you can just help them through that, everything else will kind of fall in place. Mm-hmm. And so it's a matter of, it's the whole child and not knowledge. It's just not knowledge. The knowledge will happen. Right?
A winemaker in Spain told me something really, really interesting. So it was an interesting scenario because it's this huge, old, famous wine family that goes back many, many generations. And the current generation, they had two sons, and neither of the sons wanted anything to do with making wine, but they married winemakers, one of whom is a total genius. And she's amazing, and she does biodynamic winemaking. It's very intense. She's very scientifically oriented, but also very hippie-ish in the sense of, like, permaculture, agriculture, and all that kind of stuff. And she's explaining, we had this long conversation, and she's talking about all the details and about how they have this, this one vineyard in a forest, and it just goes on and on. And she's like, and the thing that's interesting about biodynamic winemaking is that the product of biodynamic winemaking is the winemaker, not the wine. And so it's not just the purpose of education is to develop the student. The purpose of life is human development, one could say, right? All of it. Mm-hmm. And so AI is a huge opportunity. I mean, I think one thing that has to be mentioned when we talk about the impact of AI in education is that our current educational system is a disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've been thinking that too, right?
Yeah, and so
the pressure
we
around
all,
college, I mean, geez.
Yes, and getting jobs and all that stuff, but we all know how many people are great at taking tests. The best students are the ones who've optimized their life about succeeding on tests. And an hour after the test is over, they can't tell you anything. And we've known so many of these people. They're such good students, and they haven't got a thought in their head. They basically have no interests. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they dislike. It's like we're not the best students are not necessarily capable to be the leaders of tomorrow, right? And we're not really developing people. We're basically optimizing for the wrong thing. So I think AI is a huge opportunity, actually, to make big leaps in the problems that already exist in education. It's just, I'm not sure we're focused on the right things.
I think it's
the
just, it
president.
was too much too fast. And that's probably what happened in New York, where they were like, let's just pause. Like, I don't want to do this now. We're seeing all these issues with these chatbots. You know, they're also, we haven't even talked about, you know, gathering data on kids and privacy issues with children and that whole thing. But I
Yeah.
think it's possible. It just, we need like 30 years to do it right. And people are acting like it should have been implemented yesterday. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, they're acting that way because of test scores, which have gone down, and they're like, okay, well, we need to get test scores up, and so and there's been, you know, a little bit of like research in this area about the effect of AI on test scores, and um, I don't know the study like off the top of my head, but really the outcome was two cohorts of students, one with AI, one without, taking the same test. The one with AI, they had greater confidence and lower test scores.
No,
So
I hate that so much. I'm just like, it's a problem with the discourse right now. Like, too much confidence, nothing behind it.
Yeah. It's like the illusion of learning, right?
Right.
You're more confident, but you're more confident in, and that abundance of confidence is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you each a question.
For optimization. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I know what Kevin's going to say, but I don't know what you're going to say, Emily. So here's the question, Kevin: do you believe that on the whole, the existence of LLM-based AI has made you far more capable and knowledgeable than you otherwise would have been?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Emily?
I'm going to say it has allowed me to pursue projects faster. Maybe it has sped up my development in some way, but I think I'm not getting there's no clear gut signal from me on that.
So a resounding sort of from Emily.
Sort of? Depends.
Yeah,
like I've been using it a lot. I've been going down like gardening rabbit holes, chatbots. Yeah. On my maternity leave, I've just been gardening. I'm cultivating life over here. Okay. I'm cultivating life. And, you know, I probably pulled the trigger on that mulch purchase, you know, a little bit faster because I was like, I made a mock-up of how the mulch was going to look in a photo. And I was like, I want that. And, you know, I got the mulch and I spread it around. So maybe I did that in a day instead of a week of thinking about it. I don't know. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, it's like spurring me to action because I can visualize, I can move information around, and I can maybe arrive somewhere faster.
Yeah. Well, I think clearly it makes us feel like we can tackle things that before we'd be like, I don't have time for that. Right. And now you think, well, I can do this. I can accelerate it, and it's more doable. I think there's a lot of that going around. Kevin, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, you know, I go back to the Red Bull campaign. Red Bull gives you wings, and you know,
I do need a Red Bull. I should just get a Red Bull. That would probably have the same out. I should get one of those today. That sounds good.
Just have a Red Bull, and then you'd be ordering mulch even faster. Okay,
right.
No, well, it's I use it for certain things. I won't use. I don't just consult, you know, AI for everything. I really don't. I'm really big into technology, but at the same time, I don't like technology. Right? It's like I have this interesting kind of relationship with that. I am not on social at all. I just refuse to partake in that. What AI has done, I forget where this was, but somebody made the case that AI is actually connecting people with the world more. And
I think it was really Jerome Lanier who basically said that AI is basically a big accelerated global collaboration of people.
Kind of. I feel like it makes people not talk to each other because they just talk to an AI.
But what is the AI? The AI is everything and everyone. Is his point.
Yeah. Again, very sanitized.
The point that this person was making was like, okay, well, you know, the furnace, you know, broke, and And so he actually, instead of just calling somebody to come like handle it for him, he's like, oh, I could ask ChatGPT. And so he's engaging with the world, like, and
Yeah.
fixing things more. And
like
so,
Emily with her furnace.
exactly. Oh,
I definitely
Right?
sent a picture of a blinking red light on my furnace to a chatbot and was like, is this going to blow up? Like, why is this red light blinking?
but isn't that interesting in a way? And like, that's, for me, it was a little bit like thought provoking, because it's like, wow, so much. And this, for me, goes back to education. Education is like, my daughter will ask me something and I'm like, I don't know how to do that, but let's learn how to do that. Right? Like that is the process. The idea of thinking that, yeah, I can learn how to do this. And no offense to you, Dad, but it's like he never fixed anything around the house. Like, and
Wait, we have a big missed opportunity
emails
here. We should be roasting. I should be pitting you two against each other. This is
it's absolutely. What's funny is that they say it skips a generation, like the fix it thing. Like my dad could fix anything, my son can fix anything. I can't fix anything.
I think
all.
you're rationalizing.
I'm more of a big picture guy.
If that helps you sleep at night, sure.
but I think it is, here's some of the positive things that people think, yeah, I can do that. But there's limitations to all these things. Oh, don't have a relationship with it. Use it as a tool, not as a thing for your emotions, right? Because I think that is just so problematic. And so there's areas where you can use it. Coding is a perfect area, like, for,
yep.
Or a perfect application for it. But, there's so many that you just should not. And so,
well, this goes back. I mean, Mike, you always talk about how they shouldn't build these systems to create a false attachment. Like the voice coming out of Alexa should not sound human-like, because it affects you. It affects what chatbots say, and how they say it affects your mood. And that's just true, because they are built to be personable. They are built to want to tap into your mood. That's how they are built. If they were much more utilitarian, they might have less liability in terms of keying into maybe bad thought patterns, or just bringing emotions into it. We're bringing emotions into it. And maybe if it was just stripped down to the capability, like I said, deleting Excel boxes, maybe we could all just kind of relax and pause and see how we want to use this thing without getting all messed up about it.
Well, it's the attention economy. I think it was Netflix in their early deck or something. They said the biggest competition that Netflix has, do you guys know?
No. What is it? TikTok?
Interpersonal relationships.
Sleep?
Yeah. Because these are all these untapped hours in the 24-hour day that they can get you watching, capturing your attention, which is just, when you put it that way, it just sounds terrible. Very scary. Likewise, AI, it's like, what are they trying to do? It wants to be your friend. It wants to get in between all your relationships, because can it do better than other people? Well, it doesn't have to sleep. It could always be there at your beck and call.
And if you're interested in this concept, check out theattachmenteconomy.com, my Substack.
Oh.
And also
you rebranded it?
A book. No,
and you're reading the book?
It's a second one. I'm writing a book on Substack called The Attachment Economy about this very thing.
Oh, I didn't know if you had abandoned that concept. I'm so happy to hear that.
No, I literally, I'm sticking with it. But there was a really interesting idea, and this is kind of, I guess this is germane to the conversation, but there's a bioethicist named Jesse Gray at a university called Ghent University, and he proposed a brilliant idea for AI chatbots that are used for psychotherapy or any kind of therapy. Because of this AI psychosis problem, because of all these related problems, he came up with the idea of deception mode, which is, this is what he's calling a chatbot that has human-like characteristics, that talks in a certain way, that sounds like, tries to read your emotion, tries to be funny, tries to do all these things that make it sound more human. He calls all of that deception mode. And he says that therapy chatbots should be off by default, and the user can click a button saying, okay, I want to be deceived now. And then all the personality comes out of the chatbot. I think this is a brilliant idea for all AI chatbots. They should have zero personality. You can turn it on if you want to, but it should be called deception mode. And in doing that, you're actually taking action to knowingly be deceived by the chatbot. And I think that's brilliant.
Would people demand it? I guess companies will build it. Yeah.
I mean, the companies would never do it voluntarily, but this could be, if this problem gets super bad, like the AI psychosis and all this stuff, which it very well might, this might be something that could be legislated.
Yes.
You have to have deception mode off by default. You can offer deception mode. It has to be called deception mode, and it's a button they'd have to push every time they want to use it.
Interesting.
Well, this, we got to wrap it up because we're well over an hour, and we're trying to not be burdensome in terms of our time on this podcast. But thank you, Kevin, for joining us and sharing all your many insights on this. And we should definitely have you on more. This is really wonderful. So thank you so much for doing this podcast.
It was fun. Thank you for having me.
And so Emily, we'll do this again as soon as we can next week. I don't know what's happening next week. I won't make any promises, but this has been the Superintelligent Podcast. You can send us email to superintelligentpodcast@gmail.com or go to superintelligentpodcast.com to see all the stuff on our Substack. And so give us 1 million stars, give us a brilliant review, share with your friends, tell your mom. We want to grow this podcast into the stratosphere, or barring that, into moderate listenership. So thank you again, and we will see you next time.